In the long and blood-drenched history of Westeros and Essos, there are names that echo through time. Names that inspire awe, fear, and reverence. Legends like Balerion, Vagar, and Maraxis. I am Maester Black of the Citadel, keeper of draconic records and ancient lore. Today, I invite you into the darkened halls of memory to uncover the 10 mightiest dragons ever known to fly the skies. From the fire-breathing gods of Valyria to the living storm that followed Daenerys Targaryen across the narrow sea, these are the strongest dragons in the known world. Spoilers there will be. From the tales of the Dance of the Dragons, House of the Dragon, and even Game of Thrones. So beware, history is never safe, and dragons least of all. You may think you know who ranks number 1, but I dare say number 2 will surprise you. Let us begin with Dreamfire. A she-dragon of radiant silver and blue, Dreamfire was known for her agility, beauty, and musical roar. Born during the reign of King Aenys, the first Targaryen, Dreamfire was bonded first to Princess Rhaena Targaryen, sister wife of King Maegor the Cruel. She hatched from one of the original clutch of Valyria's surviving dragon eggs, believed to trace back to the old bloodlines of the Freehold itself. Though not the largest of dragons, Dreamfire was among the swiftest and most elegant. Her aerial grace made her ideal for scouting and swift-burning raids. During the early years of her flight, she was said to sing to the moon with a mournful cry, leading some maesters to speculate on the intelligence and sorrow of dragons. Dreamfire's legacy did not end with Rhaena. Over half a century later, she was claimed again by young Helaena Targaryen, daughter of King Viserys I and Queen Alicent. The bond between Dreamfire and Helaena was peaceful, though tragic. Dreamfire was kept mostly in the dragon pit, her wings clipped by courtly caution and fear of fire rekindled. But tragedy was not done with her. During the storming of the dragon pit, a horrific moment in the Dance of the Dragons when small folk rose in fury against the Targaryens, Dreamfire was attacked in her own lair. Her final moments were a blend of fury and sorrow as she broke her chains and tore apart her captors before being slain by sheer numbers. Even in death, she was a storm of teeth and fire. Dreamfire may not have raised cities like her kin, but her bloodline and song endure. Some say the dragon eggs given to Daenerys Targaryen centuries later, Viserion, Rhaegal, and Drogon, may have been born from Dreamfire's own clutch. Now we turn to Cyrax. A dragon bound to ambition and war, Cyrax was bonded to Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen at the age of 7, and from that day forward, their destinies were fused. A golden yellow dragon, Cyrax was not as wild as some of her kin, having been raised largely in captivity within the dragon pit. Yet she grew large and strong, fueled by Rhaenyra's obsession with power and the Iron Throne. Cyrax was not a dragon of dozens of battles. No, her fire was kept coiled and restrained for years, until the Dance of the Dragons began. When King Viserys I died, and the Green Council crowned Aegon II, Rhaenyra declared war. Cyrax was her mount, her weapon, her crown. Together, they soared above King's Landing as the Blacks made their claim. During the early battles of the Civil War, Cyrax's presence was more symbolic than destructive. She delivered fear as much as fire. But later, in the final throes of the war, Cyrax was chained within the Red Keep. In the second storming of the Dragon Pit, Loyalists attempted to use her as a weapon again, but it was too late. Cyrax met a brutal end at the hands of the mob, torn to death while trying to protect her wounded rider. Her death marked not only the fall of Rhaenyra's hopes, but the symbol of the Targaryens' waning grip on dragons altogether. Cyrax was not the most battle-hardened, but her sheer size, strength, and role in shaping the fate of the realm cannot be ignored. She earns her place for the weight of history she carried upon her wings. Before there was Vagar, before there was Drogon, there was Maraxis, one of the 3 great dragons that conquered Westeros alongside Aegon the Conqueror. Maraxis was ridden by Queen Rhaenys, the beloved sister wife of Aegon the Conqueror. A beast of silver scales and eyes like pools of molten gold, Maraxis was known for her speed and immense size, rivaling even Vagar in her prime. It was atop Maraxis that Mees descended upon the castles of the Reach and Dorne, delivering fire and submission in equal measure. Yet it was in Dorne where Maraxis met her doom. At the height of the First Dornish War, she was struck down by a scorpion bolt to the eye, crashing into the sands of Hellholt with her riders still aboard. Though she died early in the conquest, her legacy was massive. Her bones remained scattered and buried in sand. But Dorne never forgot the fury she brought. The burning of the will, the breaking of the Jordan, each tale marked by the shadow of Maraxis overhead. A titan brought down by the smallest of hands. And still, a name whispered by sand-steeped maesters and water gardens alike. Caraxis, known to history as the Bloodworm, was unlike any other dragon in the skies of Westeros. With scales of deep crimson, wings vast as warships, and a temper to match his color, Caraxis was born for blood. He was first claimed by Prince Aemon Targaryen, the eldest son of King Jaehaerys I. Under Aemon, he served during the campaigns in the Stepstones, terrorizing pirates and corsairs who had not the sense to flee. But it was under his second rider, Prince Daemon Targaryen, that Caraxis truly became a creature of legend. Daemon was known as the Rogue Prince, swordsman, seducer, king of the Narrow Sea, and his bond with Caraxis was more than martial. It was kinship. The dragon and the prince were alike in ambition and ferocity, and together they scorched the pages of history. Caraxis played a crucial role in the Dance of the Dragons. At Harrenhal, he bathed ancient stone in flame. At the battle over the God's Eye, he met his greatest rival, Vagar herself, now aged and wrathful. In one of the most cataclysmic aerial duels ever recorded, Caraxis and Vagar clashed above the God's Eye Lake. Caraxis tore into Vagar's belly, while Vagar ripped one of his wings to shreds. They spiraled downward together in a dance of death. Caraxis, though mortally wounded, dragged himself from the waters and died on the shore, loyal to the last. He was no mere beast of war. Caraxis was a fury made flesh, a beast of elegance and rage. And for all the carnage he wrought, none can say he did not burn brightly. Vermathor was a dragon of ancient days, massive and powerful, yet hidden in the shadows of greater fame. Nicknamed the Bronze Fury, Vermathor was one of the largest dragons ever bred by House Targaryen. He was originally ridden by King Jaehaerys I, the longest reigning Targaryen monarch. During Jaehaerys' rule, Vermathor was a symbol of peace through power, his mere presence keeping rebellious lords in check. But after the king's death, Vermathor went unclaimed. Decades passed. The dragon grew wild and reclusive, nesting in the wilds of Dragonstone. Many feared to approach him, for his fire still burned bright, and his memory was long. That changed during the Dance of the Dragons. In need of allies and riders, the Black faction sought out the unclaimed beasts of Dragonstone. Hugh Hammer, a blacksmith bastard of unknown nobility, proved bold enough to tame Vermathor. Together, they soared into war, and what fire they brought. At the Second Battle of Tumbleton, Vermathor's might was unleashed upon friend and foe alike, but treachery befell him. Hugh Hammer turned traitor, abandoning the Blacks. In the chaos that followed, Vermathor battled Silverwing, once his queenly companion. Their battle scorched the earth and shook the bones of Tumbleton. In his final moments, Vermathor was overwhelmed by multiple dragons, pierced by dozens of spears. Yet even in death, his enemies feared to approach. He roasted his last assailants before collapsing in thunder and smoke. Vermathor's tale is one of resurgence and wrath. Forgotten for a time, but never diminished, he was the sleeping giant, and when he woke, he made the realm tremble. Sunfire the Golden was perhaps the most breathtaking dragon ever hatched. Scales that shone like molten gold, wings that glimmered in the sunlight like beaten brass. But his beauty masked a fearsome predator, and his name would become soaked in betrayal, fire, and death. Claimed by King Aegon II Targaryen, Rhaenyra's half-brother and rival during the Dance of the Dragon, Sunfire began the war in glory. In his first great battle, he engaged and helped defeat Rhaenyra's supporters at Rook's Rest, facing off against Mees, the Red Queen. Though Mees was older and more experienced, Sunfire and Vagar fought her together. The battle ended in carnage. Mees was killed, but Sunfire was gravely wounded, one wing shattered, his body torn open by claws and flame. Many believed him dead. Yet against all odds, Sunfire survived, crawling into the wild hills to nurse his wounds. For months, he remained unseen. Then, he returned, stronger, fiercer, more brutal. What followed was a reign of terror. Sunfire incinerated towns that dared shelter Black loyalists. He crushed knights and castles alike. He was no longer a king's dragon, he was a vengeful god. But even gods bleed. In the final stages of the war, Sunfire faced Rhaenyra's forces again, this time at Dragonstone itself. There, in one of the most horrifying accounts in draconic history, he slaughtered his rival's last defenders. But his wounds caught up with him. His body was failing. It was said he crawled one last time to the mountaintop and cried out. Whether in pain or triumph, none could say. When he died, his golden body gleamed in the dawn like a fallen star. Sunfire was the most magnificent beast of his age, and perhaps the most pitiless. Mees, called the Red Queen, was a creature of extraordinary speed and grace. Her scarlet scales glimmered like rubies in the sun, and the pink membranes of her wings rippled like silken sails. She was older than both Caraxis and Cyrax, and many believed she was the swiftest dragon alive at the time of the Dance of the Dragons. Originally bonded to Princess Alyssa Targaryen, she was later claimed by Princess Rhaenys, the queen who never was. Mees and Rhaenys shared a rare connection, one forged through pride and mutual restraint. Rhaenys, though denied the crown, kept her dragon strong and ready. When the dance began, Mees stayed initially out of conflict. But when war came to Rook's Rest, she answered the call. There, Rhaenys and Mees faced not one but two dragons, Vagar and Sunfire. It was suicide, yet they charged headfirst into battle. Mees fought with stunning speed and fury, managing to wound Sunfire deeply and nearly escape. But Vagar was the larger, older, and deadlier beast. Mees died locked in battle, her body ripped apart midair, crashing to the earth below in a rain of fire and blood. Rhaenys perished with her, smiling, it is said, as she fell. The Red Queen was more than a dragon. She was the last fire of a dying nobility, and her sacrifice echoed through the war to come. Vagar was born in the ancient freehold of Valyria. She was the second dragon ever flown to Westeros, brought alongside Balerion and Maraxis during Aegon's conquest. Of the three, Vagar lived the longest, over 180 years. By the time of the Dance of the Dragons, she was old, scarred, and immense. Initially ridden by Queen Visenya Targaryen, Vagar was later bonded to Balon the Brave, and eventually to Prince Aemon Targaryen, the one-eyed Prince of the Greens. When Aemon took her, she was nearly too large for the dragon pit. Her wings could shadow entire castles, her roar could shake the foundations of keeps. Though aged, her power was unrivaled, and she proved it. Vagar slaughtered Mees. She burned the Riverlands. She dueled Caraxis to the death over the God's Eye. Her final battle, with Daemon Targaryen astride Caraxis, was among the most brutal ever recorded. In that legendary moment, Daemon leapt from Caraxis midair and plunged Dark Sister through Aemon's skull. The dragons crashed into the lake below, their bodies never fully recovered. Vagar was not just a dragon. She was an apocalypse given wings, the last living memory of the old world. Her death marked the end of an era. And though not quite the largest of all, her body count alone earns her this place. Drogon. Named after Daenerys Targaryen's fallen husband, Khal Drogo, Drogon was one of three dragons hatched from petrified eggs upon a pyre in the red wastes of Essos. Born of fire and blood, he emerged roaring into a world that had forgotten dragons. He was not raised in a castle, nor chained in a pit. He was a free dragon untamed, wild, and ferocious. From the moment he first took flight, Drogon showed dominance. He grew larger and faster than his brothers, Viserion and Rhaegal. While they were content with Daenerys' commands, Drogon challenged them, biting her, vanishing for months, and even killing a child in Meereen. But in time, he returned and saved her life. At the Great Pit of Daznak, surrounded by assassins and traitors, Daenerys stood alone. Drogon descended like a black comet, incinerating scores of enemies. From that moment forward, he became her soul mount. Together, they burned slave cities. They shattered fleets. Drogon became the embodiment of Daenerys' vengeance, her justice, and her wrath. And yet, he was more than just a weapon. After Daenerys' death, stabbed by Jon Snow, Drogon did what no dragon had ever done. He mourned. He did not kill Jon. Instead, he melted the Iron Throne and carried her body away, flying east toward the Lands of Shadow. No one has seen him since. Maesters have speculated where he flew to Valyria, to Ashai, or beyond the known world. But what is certain is this: Drogon was the last dragon of House Targaryen. A creature born of myth, made real again. His fire reignited the world's memory of what dragons once were, and he may still live. Balerion was the largest, oldest, and most powerful dragon ever to fly over Westeros. Hatched in Valyria centuries before the Doom, he was brought to Dragonstone by the Targaryens, ridden by Aegon the Conqueror himself. His wings stretched so vast they could blot out the sun. His teeth were the size of oak spears. His fire was black and red, capable of melting stone, collapsing castles, and reducing cities to ash. At the Field of Fire, Balerion, Vagar, and Maraxis burned 2 full armies into submission. At Harrenhal, he melted the stone towers of the greatest castle ever built. When he roared, men fell to their knees. But even the Black Dread aged. He was ridden by multiple Targaryen kings after Aegon, including Maegor the Cruel and, briefly, Viserys I. By the time Viserys took him, Balerion was slow and old, but still terrifying. When he died, his skull was placed in the Red Keep, large enough for an entire man to stand within the mouth. The maesters who examined his bones said there had never been anything like him, and never would be again. Balerion was not just a dragon. He was the will of empire, the end of resistance, the reason Westeros bent the knee. He is the Black Dread, and he remains the greatest of them all.